is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast on ESPNRadio.com. The Best of Mike and Mike.
Hey, it's Golic. Thanks for checking out the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. Here's what we got for you from Thursday. Sharknado 3 and Mark Cuban responds to DeAndre Jordan. Quarterback tiers. Where is your quarterback on this list? Ron Jaworski helps break that down. We spend an hour with Mark Schlereth, and you do not want to miss one Charles Barkley.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Good morning. We're back and better than ever. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. That was an awkward moment yesterday.
Oh, my God.
Very little question about that. And it is another morning that I begin here with you with misty eyes. So the way the schedule seems to be working now, and I said this right off the bat yesterday, and I guess I'm going to have to keep saying it all week long, is the best thing we do at ESPN is this My Wish series. And every single morning, the exact time in the airing of SportsCenter that I am sitting in the makeup chair is when they run the My Wish piece. And did you see this morning's? I guess you read it last night. I didn't see it last night. I saw it this morning.
Yeah, I ended up seeing two of them. You know,
oh, my goodness.
The repeat. They're fantastic.
Andrew McCutcheon and his kid named Sean, whose mother was told there's a 60% chance he wouldn't live through open heart surgery 2 days after he was born. And now he's playing Little League Baseball, and Andrew McCutcheon FaceTimes him, and he goes and hangs out with him for a day with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And it's just great. And to see these huge star athletes, we mentioned John Cena yesterday, Andrew McCutcheon today, and all these guys doing this stuff, it's great. I mean, it is a great reminder of why this stuff is so great in the first place. We sit here and argue over some of the, the Lakers all-time team and the Bulls all-time team and Tom Brady's deflated balls and this and that, and every once in a while something that really matters. But at the end of the day, the best thing about this stuff is that little kids are out there idolizing these players, and the players are giving something back. It's just fabulous. It's just fabulous. I can't tip my cap any more than I do to those people involved.
These are guys that are there helping change, people's lives. Just as you said, we sit here and we're not changing people's lives. We're trying to have some fun and talk about sports and delve into some deep topics every now and then. But you see what these celebrities and these athletes are doing with these young men and young women and kids in some cases. It's great. So I can't get enough of it. I love it. I love watching. I love to see which athlete's going to be involved. I love to see how the children react to it. It's just fantastic. One of the coolest things of that was when the young man and McCutcheon were playing the video game. They were sitting in these chairs in the stadium, and the video game was being played. They were controlling it, and it was on the big scoreboard.
Yeah.
Which is unbelievable.
The PNC Park, yeah.
I mean, oh, my gosh.
Yeah, McCutcheon seems like such a good guy, too.
Really does.
Yeah,
yes,
that's terrific. Anyway, terrific piece. So once again, I walk in here about 5:45, getting ready to start the show, having just watched that with, a renaissance in my belief in the human spirit and everything else, and how the world is going to be okay. And then I walk in and Golic says, don't ask me why, Greenie, but I watched Sharknado 3. I have to confess I didn't watch it last night.
I have not seen Sharknado 1, Sharknado 2. They are these cult movies.
Well, here's the reason that you didn't really appreciate Sharknado 3, because you missed a lot of the subtext because you didn't see Sharknado's 1 and 2. So obviously there's so much going on there that you obviously, when that shark flies through that window and tries to eat Ian Ziering in the car, you obviously don't understand that it really goes back to issues he had with his parents.
I agree. When he reaches in the back seat to get his mini portable chainsaw to kill it, when I know the chainsaw has been part of this whole thing, I get it. But you know how there's something 2 or 3, and then there's a title for it?
Yeah.
This was Sharknado 3. Oh, hell no.
Exactly. I mean, the whole Sharknado phenomenon is something I have to admit that I've missed, in part because I don't know where I have the Sci-Fi Channel. I don't know where to find the Sci-Fi Channel. I was all over Twitter last night. This just goes to show you, here's how far we have to come as a nation when it comes to soccer, right? The U.S. men's soccer team suffered one of the worst defeats in our history last night. Yeah. We lost to Jamaica in the Gold Cup semifinal. One of the worst losses we've ever had on home soil. And my Twitter feed had, I would say, 100 Sharknado tweets for everyone that I saw about soccer.
Without question.
That wouldn't be the case in almost any other country on planet Earth.
I happen to know where the Sci-Fi Channel is. I love the Sci-Fi Channel. But I got to this, Greenie. I kid you not, it was just starting. And I had to make a decision, and my decision was I'm going to stay with it. God help me, I stayed with it for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then finally got up, walked downstairs, pulled out a pan, and hit myself in the head. Said, what are you doing? I mean, you chuckle and you laugh, but then you say, okay, I seen this, done it, but I mean, people like Ian Ziering obviously is the
star. Well, how couldn't he be?
Well, and Tara Reid, that's his wife in the movie. But the cameos in this,
Michelle Beadle was
Michelle
there, right?
Beadle, Marcellus and Max, they were in it.
Oh, so the whole crew.
Matt Lauer, Natalie Morales,
the Today Show,
Kathy Lee Gifford, and
Hoda
Kotb was
Why
in it
is
as
it
well.
that I didn't see the movie and you did, and yet I'm telling you who was in it?
Well, I'm getting partial names here is what I'm doing. It's unreal. Jerry Springer was in it. The cameos in it is unreal. Mark Cuban was the president, and probably the thing, because as we were talking to our staff here before, the oldest person on the staff is 30.
Yeah.
So when I brought up this name, they all looked at me like I had three heads. I said, and the toughest thing for somebody my age and your age, because you're certainly closer to me than them, was the fact that Bo Derek was in this movie, and she was a grandmother. Bo Derek was a grandmother. And to which everybody on the staff looked at me like, who? And I said, have you ever seen 10? And they said, and I found out that movie was 6 years before the oldest person on our staff was born.
So 10 is not a movie that many people probably would know, but she was also in the Naked Gun movies.
Yeah, but even if you don't know 10, that scene has been played in so many things of her running slow motion down the beach with her hair in the braids. I mean, it's iconic.
Yeah.
That scene is iconic except for anybody 30 or under.
Yeah, it's not as iconic as obviously you think it is.
No, it isn't. But you have to understand. I'm sure you know when I saw her and she was a grandmother, I'm thinking, oh my God.
Yeah.
My God, she's a grandmother.
I didn't watch that last night because if you've seen one shark fall from the sky, you've seen them all. So
it is just God love them. You know what? They play them. Tons of people watch them. It's got this cult following. I stuck with it I was going back to it after commercials. Why I don't know, but I did. I kept. And then watching Mark Cuban throw a hand grenade into a shark's mouth. And act like he was serious.
So the bottom line of it is there's going to be a Sharknado 4.
Yeah, oh, yes.
Which I'm not that interested in. There's going to be a Space Jam 2, and that I'm much more interested in. Now, I love the fact that we are being told that we should not report that a Space Jam remake is being made. Now, I don't consider myself to be Sherlock Holmes, but let me tell you two things that have happened in the last week. One of them is that LeBron James has partnered with Warner Brothers. The content creation partnership with LeBron James Spring Hill Entertainment covers plans with Warner Brothers for projects in TV, film, and original digital programming. This coming on the heels of the fact that last month, Warner Brothers filed new trademarks for Space Jam. So let me see if I understand this correctly. They have filed new trademarks for Space Jam, and they've made a deal to create content with LeBron James. Either they're making another Space Jam movie, or I don't know anything in the world about what's going on in the world, and that is a movie that I think people will be excited to see.
I do love the line. We should not report that Space Jam remake will be made, but we can report that the new trademark was filed last night.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb. Space Jam's going to be made.
They're going to make a Space Jam 2.
I'm just doing it. I'm throwing it out there, and I'm going to watch it.
That's going to be good. Yeah. I mean, Space Jam 2 is a movie. Like, if I was thinking, someone threw out the question last night, what movie would you like to see a sequel? What sports movie would you like to see a sequel to? And I was thinking about it. Almost all of the sports movies that I can think of that I really like are true stories. So they don't lend themselves to a sequel.
Right.
Like, there's not going to be a Hoosiers sequel. There's not going to be
a Rudy sequel.
Rudy or I mean, I like Rudy. That I wouldn't call that one of my favorite sports movies.
But some people would.
No,
so
Remember the Titans. They're not going to make a sequel to that.
No.
They're not going to, those kinds of things. I know the Pacers are going to wear the Hoosiers jerseys, but that's not the same thing. So that I think is a movie that has stood the test of time, right? Because we asked the 21-year-old intern on our staff, Rachel, and she loves the movie Space Jam.
Right. I do.
Actually, Brooks said that the first date he ever went on was to the movie Space Jam.
And then we were questioning that, and then it turns out it was when he was in 6th grade.
His mom dropped him off at the theater.
How young were you when you went on a date? What was considered a date? Was it
I was in my 30s.
I was just going to say, was when you got engaged?
I don't know. I mean, I don't remember it. It was more recent than you might think it was. Anyway, so those are sort of the things that were going on yesterday. The Sharknado thing just completely took over Twitter, and I just thought to myself, isn't that interesting? In other countries, when their national soccer team is playing, even if it isn't the World Cup, even if it's the Gold Cup, everything stops. Businesses close. Good luck getting yourself a meal in a restaurant in Brazil when the Brazilian soccer team is playing. But last night, Sharknado 3 was trending. while the U.S. men's soccer team was losing to a Caribbean country on home. What was it, for the first time since the 60s?
60s, I think.
So, I mean, it was one of the worst defeats that we have had in soccer in 50 years. But everyone in this country was talking about sharks flying through the air and eating people.
Either watching our team lose in this case or seeing sharks fly through the air. How do you pass that up?
I think I know which one I would choose.
Absolutely, right.
I managed to watch neither last night, but that's neither here nor there. All right, Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Now you can test drive Snapshot, see how much you could save before switching to Progressive. Visit progressive.com/snapshot. Now, you mentioned that Mark Cuban had a cameo in Sharknado 3. He was the president because why wouldn't he be?
Absolutely. I don't fully understand this one. Now, I've jumped into the social media world, been in it for a while. You have. But I'm not sure I get that one. Change your avatar, I guess, to a Mavs avatar of something. He's talking about commitment. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about to show the commitment by changing your avatar picture. That's a thought of how you commit to something by changing your avatar picture. To me, that would have made no difference if they had asked him to do that at that point in time when he was all giddy for the Mavericks. He probably would have done it. He probably would have done it. Do we think that really would have stopped him from having second thoughts? And then do we really think when he was having second thoughts, he's going to say, well, I did change my avatar, so I'm really locked in.
No,
so I'm not sure I understand that one. I know what he's talking about from the commitment standpoint, but do I think if he changed his avatar, that would seem like more of a commitment? Or maybe he was thinking if he refused to change his avatar, then maybe, a red flag would have went up a little earlier for Cuban.
You exactly just hit it on the head. I think if he had said to him, all right, let's put up there, Mavericks and all that kind of stuff, because there's nothing stopping the player from doing that. The team can't announce it, but he could have done that. Or if nothing else, just changed it to something generic.
Because remember, Mark did announce it. He got fined $25,000 for it, but the player can do it if he wants.
And I understand it. I think that we live in a world now where that does constitute commitment. Obviously not a binding commitment.
No.
But remember, when Jimmy Graham was going through his, should he be franchised as a tight end or a wide receiver, one of the things they held against him was that on his Twitter bio, he described himself as a tight end. And he changed that in a hurry. That people use that as
that's the only way I could see it then. If he asked him to change the avatar and he didn't. But if he did change it, and then still reneged on his word.
Well, let me just say this, okay? I think that there is more to it than you're thinking. When people have breakups today, one of the first things they do is change their Facebook status. When little kids, I know this from my little kids, when they're dating each other, not unlike Brooks going to a movie with a girl in sixth grade. I have a sixth grade son. What they do is they put a little heart and that person's name on their Instagram bio. And that's what that constitutes. We're dating. We're a couple now. That matters. That matters to people of this generation. That matters. So I think that if DeAndre Jordan had changed his to I'm coming to Dallas, everybody, I think it would have mattered at least a little bit. I'm not saying it's binding.
I disagree.
But it would have been a sign of a more complete commitment.
I think all that would have done. I completely disagree with that because I think DeAndre Jordan completely got caught up in the moment, which it sounds more and more when you read the story that he got caught up in the moment of being recruited, being loved, being wooed, said, yes, I'm coming. And at that point, if Mark Cuban said, change your avatar, you're a Mav. Okay, Mark, I'm going to do it. I'm going to change my avatar.
I disagree. You know what he would have done? He would have sat down, and just at the moment, he would have found a picture of himself or photoshopped a Mavericks jersey in front of himself. And at the moment that he's hitting edit and done, he would have said, wait a minute. This is getting real now. Now this is getting real. If I'm changing my Avi, now this is getting real.
Now it's serious. This is even more binding than me signing my name on a contract.
Look, I understand where Cuban is coming from.
I understand to a small point.
The reality of their relationship, or whatever their relationship was, would dictate whether he should have expected a phone call from DeAndre or not. But the difference there is that DeAndre Jordan did not make a commitment to come back to the Clippers and then change his mind. He didn't look Doc Rivers in the eye, shake his hand, and said, okay, buddy, 4 more years together, and then change his mind. He did that with Mark Cuban. If you read Ramona Shelburne's story about this, I mean, all the details are in there. They're walking in the garden. Cuban is walking up and screaming up and down, we got him, we got him. he made a commitment. He made a commitment. He may not have changed his Twitter, Avi, but he made a commitment. And when you make a commitment, again, it wasn't binding. It was verbal. You can change your mind. And Cuban said he didn't have a problem with changing his mind. But in his heart of hearts, I don't even think Doc Rivers believes what he's saying there. I think he's defending his guy, and he's got to sort of make the situation a little better for DeAndre because he knows that he's getting criticized out there. Yeah. So I don't fault him for that. But I don't think Doc Rivers really believes what he's saying there.
I would hope not, because I do agree with you. He's not going to chastise DeAndre Jordan publicly for that when there was so much getting, everybody was jumping on him like you and I and many other people for him not calling or texting or even, communicating in any way to Mark Cuban or the Mavericks. So I do think it's different. The Doc also said DeAndre should be celebrated for the decision that was at the team presser. I think a lot of that is for the public. And not to, because remember, there was some bad blood there that they had to work out as well. So I don't think Doc wanted to go that way at all of making it sound like DeAndre did anything wrong. But I'm with you. I have a hard time believing Doc even believes that in that situation, the way he committed, that he didn't owe some sort of communication instead of basically hiding. I mean, here's one of the largest men playing in a sport. Basically hiding physically in his house, or well, hiding, everybody knew where it was, but not letting anybody in and hiding on social media. I mean,
hiding is the right word.
It's just petty.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
What he's basically saying is it's all well and good to be tweeting emojis and hanging out in a house and Chris Paul to be racing back from his, adventures in the Bahamas or wherever he goes with LeBron and those guys to tell DeAndre Jordan how much he loves him. But then you know what? Once the season starts, you still have the same role on that same team that you didn't like, and you're not getting a chance to be an offensive option and all those things, and you and Chris Paul don't like each other. You didn't like each other before, and you're not going to like each other now. I think that's basically what Mark Cuban is saying.
And also, if you think about the situation, that conversation, that lovey-dovey conversation wasn't made before DeAndre Jordan made his decision to go to the Mavericks. Those guys didn't get together and kind of clear the air. They only cleared the air once they thought they were losing him, and then they thought they might get him back. Then all of a sudden everybody is coming to the rescue, which leads you to wonder. And this happens all the time. In recruiting, you know what the line is? You're being told what you want to hear. And how much do you buy into it? Because that's exactly right. He's going to go back. He's going to be the third wheel there. How will he fit in? Is his role going to expand? So it's back to the same problems again, or possibly, even though it seems like they cleared the air. But I found that whole situation interesting as well. Listen, they're a good team. They can make a run with the talent that they have. He's a heck of a player. He'll play his role on this team. But I did find the whole thing interesting. And while the makeup sex is a thing that does get all the headlines, I certainly understand the analogy. And if the makeup sex is that good, the first thing you want to do is get in a fight again.
They probably will.
Yeah.
So there's Mark Cuban yesterday. Again, he had a busy day. Cameo on Colin and a cameo as the president in Sharknado 3. While you were sleeping last night, on ProFootballTalk.com, Mike Florio had a report, not overwhelmingly significant, but a little bit of an update from him on the business between Roger Goodell and Tom Brady, which we are all waiting for what feels like this an agonizing amount of time. It has now been a month to the day since Brady went in there for his appeal hearing. And according to Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk, what he's basically saying is that when a suspended player exercises his appeal rights, a settlement is always possible. I'm reading this directly. In the case of Tom Brady, a league source telling Florio that settlement discussions have occurred. And while it remains possible that something could be worked out, it would be unexpected. A source says that Goodell is being pushed by a small handful of influential owners to hold firm on the 4-game suspension. Working against that pressure is the fear that the 4-game suspension will be wiped out by a federal court. So here is the thing. It has not been said publicly by Brady, but so many people around him have said it that it's got to be coming from him, that he will not accept any suspension. Now, that could be a bluff. That could be his way of putting it out there. Hey, Roger, you want to suspend me at all? You either drop this thing to nothing or I'm taking you to court. Right. And when push comes to shove, maybe he wouldn't really. We don't know. We wouldn't know, I guess, for sure until it actually plays out that way, if it does. But what it comes down to then is if the thing, let's just say for the sake of argument, Goodell knocks it down to 2 games, Brady takes him to court and wins. Would you describe that as embarrassing for the commissioner or not?
If he dropped it down?
If he dropped it down, if whatever it is, if he leaves if anything that he does, if he leaves it at 4, if he drops it at 2, if he drops it to 1, and it gets knocked down by the court.
They've lost, how many last times they've gone to court on something have they lost? And this would be another one, and this would be unbelievably high profile, and the league made it high profile by keeping this thing going. So yes, it would be embarrassing.
See, I read an interesting piece on I think it was For the Win, had a column, I should have set it aside and I didn't, in which they talked about how, in some ways, this hasn't been so bad for the league. Because, think about it, a year ago at this time, you and I were yelling and screaming, as was the entire rest of the country, about what the NFL did and didn't do about Ray Rice. Mm-hmm. And we were all talking about domestic violence. And now we're talking about the inflation level of footballs.
Right.
That it is a completely benign thing that everyone is yelling and screaming about. And that at the end of the day, these teams all just got $226 million to split up, so they really don't care. Here's the column. Yes, Cerruti just found it. The headline, it's on For the Win, and it was Roger Goodell can't get anything right, and it just doesn't matter. The basic point being that it doesn't really matter how this thing turns out. It will not have any significant or lasting impact on the league. The Ray Rice business, the domestic violence, that does. That takes a real toll on the National Football League, even if it doesn't show up immediately financially.
I was just going to say, it may take a toll, but it didn't show up financially. And if financially the league wasn't going to, and we know the way, because we heard it kind of out there, certainly with the Adrian Peterson situation, sponsors. That's it. You know, the fans threaten to never go to a game, and then there's another person to take their spot. But that's not always true with sponsors. When sponsors start to back out, you can lose a lot of money, and that's when owners sit up a little straighter, when that amount of money might go out the window.
And even beyond that.
It didn't, though. But that's my point. It didn't. This was, from a social standpoint and a public standpoint, this was about as tough as you were going to get in the NFL. Domestic violence and thinking this entity wasn't handling it correctly, and the bashing they were taking. And monetarily, it didn't affect them one bit.
Correct. But there are other real effects beyond financial, and it did. No one, I think, with a shred of common sense would say that the old adage, any publicity is good publicity, applied to that.
I agree with that,
but it was bad. There was a price to be paid. First of all, I mean, Roger Goodell's reputation.
Roger Goodell put his reputation, yes, got unbelievably rocked with this. And maybe people's opinions on the NFL and professional athletes or professional football players as well. But that happens off and on. This with a serious thing in domestic violence. But
so the point is that comparatively, this is obviously nothing. And the fact that they're yelling and screaming about nothing, and that all of us are talking about this nothing, and whatever it is that ultimately comes of it will be nothing to everyone outside of the fans who are directly affected on the field, which, of course, is also, in the big picture, nothing. And Brady. The one thing that really is at stake here, I suppose, to some degree, is Brady playing and Brady's reputation, his legacy. He might be the greatest player of all time, and this is sort of staining him as a
And I disagree that the league is all right with this and may want this because of the publicity.
Not that they want it, but that it is so much less significant.
Well, it is less significant,
happened.
but there's a difference of it being less significant, and we're okay with this publicity, and we have no problem with it. I completely disagree with that. You're at the top of the food chain right now. You're at the top of the food chain. As you mentioned, every team got $226 million on the TV deals and all the money that they're making. There are some things you just don't need out there. And though this is way less embarrassing than the domestic violence and way less meaningful than the domestic violence, I don't believe for a second that the NFL is like, all right, this may be a positive for us. We're still being talked about. I can't buy that one bit.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Mike and Mike.
Two different places have rated quarterbacks. You tell me where you think you put more stock. We got Mike Sando, who for the second straight year has, or I don't even know if it's the second I've seen it, maybe it's more than that, ranked all the quarterbacks and put them in 4 different tiers. And you know I'm not crazy about this list because for the second consecutive year.
Yeah, you don't like who's dead last.
He ranked Geno Smith 32nd, but I can't fight it. I can't argue with it. I'm not suggesting that it's wrong. I'm hoping, look, I guess there's only room for improvement. But he ranks the quarterbacks all 1 through 32, and he puts them in different tiers. And then the Madden game also ranks the quarterbacks. Now, that's an interesting way of looking at it as well.
Yeah, it is.
Madden, did you see Madden's top 5 quarterbacks?
No, I did not.
The top 5 quarterbacks on the Madden game this year, Madden 16. Number 5 is Andrew Luck with a rating of 94. Number 4 is Ben Roethlisberger with a rating of 95. Also rated 95 is Drew Brees. Number 2 with a rating of 97 is Tom Brady. And number 1 with a rating of 99 is Aaron Rodgers.
Who's 3? I'm sorry?
Who's 3 was Brees.
Okay.
You know, again, now they're looking at all different things.
Yeah.
And to be clear, when you look at Mike Sando's ratings, he's not ranking them, the quarterbacks themselves. No. He is polling all kinds of insiders. He's talking to coaches and general managers and talent evaluators
right.
And putting together their rankings and their views on different quarterbacks. So you can see that in its entirety if you'd like to, and it's easy to find. But I have a couple of different, like, little sort of shorter versions of it, just some little snippets that seemed interesting that came out of it that I thought you might be interested in hearing about, just some different things that were said about some of the different quarterbacks that were out there. Let me pull that up for you as quickly as I can here. Here you go. Here's one general manager on Andrew Luck. The best ranking you can get is a 1. He said, Luck didn't get a 1 from everybody. You want to talk about a guy who makes the team? He is Michael Jordan. Their defense stinks, speaking of the Colts. Every game he has to outscore everybody. He is the epitome of a 1. If I was to draft tomorrow any player in the NFL, it would be Andrew Luck 1, and Aaron Rodgers 2. That's one general manager on Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck is 3rd in this rating, and as Greeny said, the best number you could get associated with you is a 1. He has a 1.14. Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers are tied for number 1 with the best score you can get, a 1. So that's what he thinks of Andrew Luck. I don't know if I'd go that far yet. I still may take Aaron Rodgers. There's definitely an age difference with these guys at this point, so you have to take
between Rodgers and Luck.
Between Rodgers and Luck,
it isn't as much as you think.
What is it? 5?
How old? Aaron Rodgers is younger than you think he is.
Is it 5 years? Is it as much as 5 years?
How old is Aaron Rodgers? 31?
31.
Oh, Rodgers is 31.
Yeah.
All right, I take it back. I stand corrected. There is a significant age difference. Okay, maybe you forget that Rodgers sat there behind Favre for all those years. Yeah. Isn't that fascinating? All right, a couple of other Matthew Stafford. Where is Stafford in the rankings?
Stafford is tied for 12th.
And he's in which tier?
He's in tier 2.
Tier 2. So he's a second-tier quarterback, which is high. Here's one offensive coach on Matthew Stafford. Stafford could be Aaron Rodgers if he had the burning passion and if he had Mike McCarthy from day one, because he's talented like that and quick with the ball. But you look at the look on Stafford's face before the game, then look at Rodgers' face or Big Ben's face or Luck's or especially Drew Brees' face, and you say, holy smoke. Look at Matthew Stafford's eyes, and it's like gym class. It's like, I hope we win. I think we are pretty good, as opposed to, I'm going to rip your throat out. That's one evaluator on Matthew Stafford. I've always liked Matthew Stafford a lot.
I have liked him as well. And again, these are insiders in the game as far as coaches, ex-coaches, GMs,
but that's a team that, to me, has not accomplished as much as I think its talent would suggest it should.
The word is underachieved. They've underachieved, and now they lose a couple of big guys on their defense on that line, and Fairley and Sue. So, that some of the changes start to happen. We'll see. This is a team that had the talent. I thought they would have made more hay with it than they have at this point.
Now, bear in mind, they went into the last week of the season last week with a chance to win their division, lost a tough game to Green Bay. That was the game where Ndamukong Suh stepped on Aaron Rodgers, got suspended. That was overturned. They played Dallas in Dallas, and that probably should have won that game. That was the game with the very questionable call
interference
that turned things around a little bit, got people very excited, all upset in Detroit. Right. They feel that game was taken from them. So they had a good year last year. Here's one head coach on Colin Kaepernick. He has unique ability, but having played him more than once, I never felt like he could beat you from the pocket, and I still feel that way.
Colin Kaepernick is tied in these rankings, tied for 18th.
So below average. I mean, if you're going to say the absolute, there are 32 starting quarterbacks.
Yeah,
he's on the bottom half of the spectrum.
He's in tier 3. There are 4 tiers. There are actually 5, but nobody was in the 5th tier. The first tier, which there are 6 quarterbacks: Aaron, Brady, Luck, Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees. And then that's 6. So then you go a number past that. The first one in Tier 2 is Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers, I'm sorry, he's tied with
Eli.
With Russell Eli. No, Phillip Rivers, and then Russell Wilson. Eli is tied for 12th.
Oh, Eli, I'm sorry, is tied with Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, tied with Matthew Stafford. Yeah.
Let me read you some more of these comments. One offensive coordinator talking about Jameis Winston. He threw so many bad interceptions in college where everybody is wide open. That's not scientific. He was just so inconsistent in college, turned it over all the time, and was on the best team in college. Now, it's interesting because you're trying to rank all these quarterbacks, and he is projected to be the starting quarterback there, so how are you ranking him, and how are you ranking Mariota? They ranked Mariota the 25th best quarterback and Jameis Winston the 26th. There's really no way to start. I mean, the two of them haven't even had a practice yet, so it's impossible really to project where they're going to wind up.
In the Tier 4, the lowest tier, which the beginning of it is Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston, so this is the lowest ranked quarterbacks, going from 25 down to 32. Of all those quarterbacks, there are only 2 that have been consistent starters that weren't backups for a while. Geno Smith, who came in and started, right?
Yes.
He's dead last.
He wasn't expected to, but
right.
Mark Sanchez got hurt ridiculously.
But
yeah.
And the other, RG3. RG3 is ranked 28th. The others around him are Blake. I should say Blake Bortles came in and started right away as well, but we got a year. So Josh McCown, who's been a backup, Brian Hoyer, who's been a backup and a starter, obviously, as well, and Matt Castle, who's been a backup and a starter. But a couple of these guys have been starters since they got into the league, and they're ranked pretty darn low.
Here's what one offensive coach said about RG3. Quote, he's done. The reason why is the injury slowed his legs, and his ego will not allow him to hit rock bottom and actually grind his way back up the right way. There was another interesting story that I saw yesterday suggesting that RG3 has to get out of Washington, that it is clear Jay Gruden doesn't believe in him, that Jay Gruden isn't interested in tailoring a system to the things that RG3 does well, and that if he is going to have any success whatsoever, it has to be somewhere besides in Washington. And then one last scathing comment. One head coach on, Jay Cutler. Where's Cutler ranked here?
Cutler is tied for 20th.
So below.
He's in that third tier, about the middle of the third tier.
The head coach's comment on Cutler is, I've never seen a guy get paid that much money and see that many people fired around him. It's incredible. It's never his fault. This is the last year of that, by the way. They would have gotten rid of him if they could. And I think he's finally got himself the first coach that isn't going to go before he does.
Right.
John Fox isn't going to go. I think Cutler is. So I think that's going to be the end of that there.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Time to talk quarterbacks. And with sharks flying through the air, appropriate that we bring in our friend Jaws, Ron Jaworski, on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Good morning, Jaws.
Good morning, Mike. And, Mike, it's so great to be with you guys. Obviously, training camps are opening, football around the corner, and I'm on your show again.
I have to believe that someone whose nickname is Jaws watched Sharknado 3 last night. Did you watch Sharknado 3?
I did not, unfortunately, but I will get to it. I think I've earned my way in to get a part in one of those movies.
I would agree, and there's enough cameos in it to where that's a great point. Don't worry, there'll be plenty more Sharknadoes out there for you to get a cameo in.
We need the real Jaws in there.
The Sharknado phenomenon, I think, has plenty of legs. Okay, let's talk about some of these quarterbacks. Mike Sando put together his annual look with I'll talk to all coaches and GMs, and Jaws is counting down all the quarterbacks as well. You see it on SportsCenter, and so far he's released from 32 through 21, and that'll continue to go through forward. There's a few that I want to focus on. You have Robert Griffin III ranked as the 25th best quarterback in the NFL. I want you to get down to this sort of level. The numbers are what the numbers are. I refuse to believe that he can't be quote unquote salvaged. He's just got too much talent for it to be impossible for him to become a good NFL quarterback. So I'm going to phrase the question this way. What needs to happen for RG3 to go back to being what it looked like he was destined to be, which is a very good NFL quarterback?
Mike, I agree with you. In fact, when I started doing these rankings 3 years ago, he was, I believe, at number 9 or 10 after his rookie year. He had that kind of, to me, upside and talent. Obviously, the injuries played a major part in it, but I believe, he is a reparation project. I think he can be saved, and I think, contrary to what we kind of hear from other people, I think Jay Gruden is trying very hard to salvage Robert Griffin III. I think the talent is there. I still say to this day, one of the most impressive pro day workouts I have yet to see was Robert Griffin III when I went down to Waco, Texas and watched his workout. And I know the Redskins left that workout feeling that they had their quarterback for the next 10 years. And I know they felt that after year one they had their quarterback for the next 10 years. But the injuries have slowed him down, but he also has to buy into the program. Playing quarterback in the National Football League is not always about, great arm talent and ability to run. It's a cerebral part of the game. It's a leadership part of the game. It's a preparation part of the game that Robert Griffin has to understand. That's important, his ability to run and make throws.
I have one on him as well. Quarterbacks, if they don't work out somewhere and they start playing poorly, they get chances in other places a lot. We see some quarterbacks bounce around. If it doesn't work for RG3 this year, is he going to be that guy then? Is he going to be that guy that goes to another team but not as a starter? He fights maybe for that position or has to wait for someone to get hurt. Is he close to being that?
I don't think he's there yet. I still see starting quarterback on Robert Griffin. I think I still see it in Washington. But hey, anything could happen. We've watched quarterbacks throughout this league for years, and we've seen, the demise of guys like Michael Vick who had unbelievable seasons, and then, you get hurt, and all of a sudden, you're not the same guy. I've seen it with guys like Randall Cunningham, who was a tremendous quarterback. All of a sudden, he hurts his knee and never the same guy. And quarterbacks that use mobility as kind of their backbone, they, when they get hurt, they have to learn to play a different way because they've only played one way their entire life. And I think that's what's happening with Griffin right now. The adjustment to not having the great athleticism, the ability to escape the pocket, and the ability to make plays with his legs, that isn't gone, but it's not what it was. So he's got to learn to play a different game, and that takes time.
RG3's QBR in the pocket over the last two seasons is 49.9. That's the sixth lowest among qualified quarterbacks during that span. At number 29...
And Mike, yeah. Mike, I'll just interrupt you 1 second.
Sure.
And I remember him coming back from that injury. He was not the same guy. I remember doing, countdown and the pregame shows and talking about that. His mechanics were flawed. That injury was devastating to Robert Griffin. So he's got to mentally get over that as well. Although it's been years, you mentally have to get over the injury.
I've always believed that needlessly everyone involved rushed him back also.
No question.
Which I think did not do him any good. And I've always wondered how much the sponsor played a role in that as well. All right, Mike and Jaws, let's get to one that's near and dear to my heart. At number 29 out of 32 on your list, you have Geno Smith. He actually ranks dead last in Mike Sando's list at number 32, which he did a year ago as well. Let's talk about him a little bit. Golic is telling me he thinks the Jets, with as good a defense as they project to have this year, should play an extremely conservative offense. They did add Brandon Marshall. They make Eric Decker the number 2 receiver. They have a young tight end in Jason Morrow. They have the ability to have some firepower. If you're going to play a very safe offense, it seems to me you might as well put Ryan Fitzpatrick out there. So what do you expect for the chances of serious progression and development for Geno Smith?
I'm still a Geno Smith fan, and I'm in his camp. And I don't think there's any doubt he has an incredible throwing skill set. The thing that bothers me is basically his ability to process and, develop that information quickly. And that doesn't happen automatically for everyone. But I thought the last 4 games last season, once again, Geno Smith showed great progress. To me, he's built that foundation. Eventually the light is going to go on. Because if you can throw the football, if you can throw it accurately, if you can anticipate, you're going to have a good upside. The thing that he has to do is read defense quickly, get the ball out of his hand, anticipation, be a little bit better. But I still think Geno Smith has the potential to be a top half quarterback, at least in my rankings.
You have down ranked to 21, and I'm going to give the names, and then I'm going to ask this question. Starting at 32, you have the 2 rookies, Winston and Mariota, then Ryan Mallett, Geno Smith, Josh McCown, Teddy Bridgewater, Derek Carr, RG3, Matt Castle, Blake Bortles, Foles 22, Cutler 21. If I tell you next year one of these guys is going to have jumped up 10 spots from where they are, maybe Mallett from 30 to 20, Josh from 28 to 18, but one of these guys is going to jump 10 spots. I have a name in mind who I think is going to. Who do you think would?
Can you give me 2 or are you going to make it 1?
No, 1. Only 1.
Only 1? I'm going to go with Nick Foles. And I'm on this premise. Quietly, the St. Louis Rams and Jeff Fisher are building a rock-solid football team. Todd Gurley is there. They're going to run the football. Nick Foles is an outstanding play-action passer. You know, the great year he had 2 years ago in Philadelphia with 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, you're never going to replicate that. But Nick Foles got hurt last year, fell out of favor with Chip Kelly. He's going to go to a system that plays to his game very well. A strong running game, an outstanding defense, and his ability to get the ball accurately down the field. So I'm going to say Nick Foles at 22 right now is a guy that could make a quantum leap next year.
I'm going to tell me what you think of mine. I'm saying Teddy Bridgewater.
That was my second one.
When you were mentioning the things Geno Smith needed to do better, I thought Teddy Bridgewater is doing those things as a rookie, reading defenses, getting the ball out quick. He's still a rookie, still making mistakes. I get it. But I loved what and this is what we talked about with him coming into the league, that he was maybe the most pro-ready, but I know you have Bortles ranked ahead of him, so maybe you think Bortles has a higher ceiling, which I don't disagree with at this point yet. But Teddy Bridgewater makes a lot of good decisions, and now he gets that running game with Adrian Peterson. I see this guy making a big jump.
You absolutely nailed it, Mike. I think the fact that he'll have the ability to use the play-action passing game, and teams use play-action passing to manufacture big plays, explosive plays, get linebackers, safeties, slot cover corners out of position with the play-action game and attack down the field. When you got Adrian Peterson in the backfield, people have to respect the run. So I think the more explosive plays will come off the play-action with Adrian Peterson down the field with Bridgewater. And I will say this about Teddy. I thought he was one of the best coached young quarterbacks I've seen in a long time last year. Norv Turner did an amazing job of managing his game. You know, much like we saw Ben Roethlisberger years ago when he first came in the league. You know, that 22 to 25 passes. Here's what we're going to do. You simplify the game plan. Don't make mistakes. I thought Norv Turner did a great job of defining the reads for Teddy Bridgewater. He certainly executed those reads very well for a rookie quarterback, and I think he certainly could be one of those guys that makes a big jump.
Last one, Jaws. Obviously, we're going to have a whole lot of time talking to you as football gets going. Now, by the way, there are rookies have reported as of today in 4 camps. Yesterday it was Baltimore, Cleveland, and New Orleans, and today it's New England where rookies report. So going back to those rookie years, Jaws, and going back to training camp, I know it brings chills down my neck again. So that these guys starting their pro careers, I think it's a very cool thing.
Hey, Mike, let me go back a little bit. There was a time when we started training camp in early July, like July 3rd, and we went 7 weeks, 2 days a week. They didn't have all these rules of non-contact. The Oklahoma drills, the Nutcracker, all those things. It's like a country club now, these training camps.
I try not to say that too much because I agree with you, because then I get there's the old ball player saying, back when I played. But
I'm with you, but it's true.
It is different. It is true. So one more real quick one about Denver. Not so much, obviously it's about Peyton as well, but their defense, I like their aggressive defense. Running game was in the middle of the pack last year. 4 new offensive linemen on that O-line. And Peyton Manning, another year older. Do you think their window is just about closed?
It's close, but I like what Gary Kubak's going to install out in Denver. You're going to see more of Peyton Manning with the old Colts offense. The running game, him playing under center more than he has in the past. That threat of the run, that stretch running game with the play-action pass game that we saw so much of, the big plays to Marvin Harrison. I think you'll see a Denver team that's going to run the ball more efficiently, a different style of offense, a more conventional style offense, not all the shotgun spread formation that we've seen out of Peyton. I think they're going to want to keep Peyton healthy by protecting him with the running game.
All right, Ron Jaworski, who will be talking football all season long, except for those 2 days he'll have to take off to film his cameo in Sharknado 4, which we're all looking forward to. Thank you, Jaws.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, guys.
How could someone whose nickname is Jaws not be in Sharknado?
You're absolutely right.
The best of Mike and Mike.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt, frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
Mike and Mike.
Oh, yes. It's been too long since we've heard this song. It's been too long since we've seen this man. We're Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance, here with his Subway Fresh Take. He's a debonair man about town. He's busy doing all kinds of things these days. He played 12 years in the NFL and won 3 Super Bowls. The one and only Mark Schlereth, our buddy Stink, is back and better than ever. Good to see you, Stink.
It's great to be with you guys. You know, I don't feel like I've been gone because you're on every morning at the house.
Well, see, there you go.
So I spend time with you. You don't necessarily get to see me, but I spend that time with you guys every morning.
How quickly does Lisa want to turn us off?
She actually likes you guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she likes you guys. So she likes having you on in the morning.
Oh, I like that. I like to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. I get my fix.
That's the way that I also fool members of my family into thinking that we've maintained a relationship.
Right, exactly.
But that's neither here nor there. Okay, so there's a bunch of stuff that I need to get to here, and I'm almost positive that Stink is going to be on my side on one of the debates that we're having this morning.
Okay.
But before we get to any of that, we need to talk first and foremost about the things that you are now doing. I was trying to explain to Golic something that I saw. You have created this YouTube channel where you are doing... What are you calling them?
I call it Man Skills or Man 101.
Right,
yeah,
right.
like things that every dude should know how to do. Like, these would be great videos for you because I know when it comes to doing things around the home, you have no clue what you're doing. So, yeah, I've created a series of videos to help guys like you out.
I mean, like instructional videos. If you had light bulb changing 101, I think that would be a good start for me. But the one that I watched first, and I for the life of me, couldn't understand what was going on, except that I found it fascinating.
And you couldn't explain it to me, so I had
You
no
were trying
idea
to
what
take
you were talking
one
about.
wire and connect it to another. We get
No. It was a half-inch irrigation pipe. So I was digging up my front garden, and I actually, because it was all, I cut it, so I spliced it. And one of the keys I always use, I have this irrigation bucket that I carry with me, so I change sprinkler heads and whatever, the things that happen, just routine things that you have to do.
I have that bucket too.
Right, when you're a landscaper, and one of the tricks I do when I'm splicing a irrigation tube, because the couplings are really tight, they're hard to get on, so I carry a little Bic butane little lighter, like you light your barbecue with, and I just warm up that irrigation pipe, so it expands and then it slides right in there, and it works perfectly. And so little tips like that along the way, to help, it's man skills.
Take care of those little jobs that they just kind of pop up and you're like, I got to get to that, and he makes it easier for you.
When we watched that together, my wife Stacy, who loves Stink, was watching this with me, and she said, Michael, I really don't think you should have one of those lighter things. I just even having one of those around, the massive potential for me to damage A, myself, or B, burn my house down.
Well, and I can attest to that. He called me one time, he and Stacy, because their pilot light went out on their stove, and he was I was explaining how to relight it.
Right.
And I explained everything, and you still didn't do it.
No.
You were still too afraid
I was afraid I would blow up the house.
Yeah.
There is one video on there, Mike, that you're going to find particularly disgusting. So one of the things that I do is, and it's explained on one of my videos, is that I use the same pair of shorts and the same T-shirt the whole summer. I hang it in the garage. It never goes in the wash. And at the end of the year, and it is rank. Like, sometimes I am sitting doing some work, and I have to sit down for a minute, like I'm exhausted, and all I can do is smell myself. And I'm like, that is rank. But I just keep hanging it in the garage.
When you do outside
outdoor
stuff?
work, when I mow, I have one outfit for the summer. And at the end of the year, when the snow starts to fall, I throw it in the trash. So it's it's the only thing. Every video I'm in, I will be in the exact same outfit.
It's like disposable clothes.
Yeah, they're filthy, they are rank, they are nasty, and then I throw them away.
Well, I guess appropriate with your nickname being Stink.
Yes, yeah.
One more I have to ask you about, and then I want to get back to the business at hand. What is this one? Because I haven't seen it, but Mike was telling me about cheating at golf. Because this I may have to have a problem with.
Okay, well, because it's a gentleman's game, right?
Yes.
But Mike and I come from a world where, and we've seen this in the NFL, where if you're not cheating, you're not trying, right? So you see the little green lifesaver right there? That is a 3-wood off the deck. We were way out, and I hit that about 275 because I teed it up a little bit and put it on the fringe.
So you were in the fairway.
I was in the fairway.
And you put a lifesaver on the fairway.
I carry a pocket of lifesavers with me, so when my buddies are, I got a little dirt on the ball, I act like I'm rubbing the dirt off and put the lifesaver under the ball.
Wow,
Boom!
that is a great idea.
Huh?
Yeah.
Right there.
So you're teeing up the ball on a lifesaver.
But it's green lifesaver, and when you hit the ball, the lifesaver basically disintegrates. It explodes.
The key there,
and you can't see it.
You may not have caught this, is that it's a green lifesaver.
Yeah.
For the green fairway. Kind of hide it
melds in there. Yeah. Because if you used an orange one, everyone would see.
What a great idea.
Yeah. You can use that, Mike.
Oh, I'm going to.
Yeah,
it's disgraceful. It's despicable. It's horrible. Okay, let's get to some other things.
Not when you're beating your buddies in golf. It's not
taking their money.
Yeah.
Problem is, I need all the lifesavers.
Let's talk about one of the topics of the day, which is living up to your word, which is an appropriate topic considering your disgraceful, despicable behavior on the golf course. DeAndre Jordan and Mark Cuban yesterday telling Colin that if he had one thing to do over again, he would have made him change his social media status, change his avatar, tweet to his followers, I'm going to Dallas, I'm excited to be a Maverick. And yes, they can do it. I don't know why I didn't remember it. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge on July 4th tweeted, I'm coming back to Texas. That's how the world found out about it. It got retweeted 20,000 times, including by me. So these players, there are no, the moratorium does not apply to them. They can't, they're not allowed to say, which is a double negative. They're allowed to tell the world, I'm coming to San Antonio. So here's what I would ask. Because you're very active on Twitter. I follow Mark Schlereth on Twitter. Everybody should. You're very, very active, tweeting about any number of things. Lots about football, lots about your green chili, and any number of other topics. When you tweet something, does that change the obligation? Which is to say, if DeAndre Jordan, who gave Mark Cuban a verbal agreement that he's coming to Dallas, shook his hand, looked him in the eye and said, I'm coming, and then changed his mind. If he had tweeted it, to all of his followers, I'm coming to Dallas, can't wait, MFFL, which is Mavs Fan for Life, their hashtag, I'm coming to Dallas, change his avatar and everything else. Would that have changed the equation in your mind in any way?
You still have that opportunity. You still have that window to change your mind. And you know what? He's afforded that opportunity. I don't know that it would have changed my mind. The only thing, and I jokingly said this on Twitter, if you're not man enough to have your wife call Mark Cuban and tell him you're not coming, then you know what? You're no friend of mine. I guarantee you that right now, because you guys know I am an absolute coward when it comes to, you know what? It doesn't matter what it is. I will sick my wife on. I will tip you for doing a bad job, and then I will get my wife on you. Like, can you call them? They were horrible. Why did you give them money? Well, that's what you do. You give them money. Right?
Tell them how bad he was.
Right. Tell them how bad. Get that back. So, but your obligation, I understand your word, and I understand those things, but there's this built-in window that they can't sign you, and that time is probably bad for a guy like DeAndre when he starts thinking about things. And the bottom line is this, you know what? You're afforded as an athlete to change your mind, because once you go there, you're there. And especially in the football world, right, where you don't have a lot of opportunities. We saw this. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't made a big deal with Frank Gore, right? Frank Gore, it was assumed he was going to the Philadelphia Eagles. It was kind of reported that he was going, then all of a sudden he did the U-turn to Indianapolis. So, guys have the right to change their mind. My big thing would be, if you're going to do it, make sure you call the people that you already agreed and said, hey, listen, man, I've had a change of heart. I don't feel right about this or something. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that when you sit back and because we can all get caught up in that firestorm, right, where we get excited and it's something new and it's something great and all these things are going on and you see all this money. But at the end of the day, sometimes you need to back up and kind of think about and weigh out where you are in your life, what you really want to accomplish, and so I'm not angry at him for changing his mind. I just think you need to talk to the people that you said, hey, I'm going to do this with, and say, listen, I've had a change of heart.
Get it. But, Mike, if LaMarcus Aldridge had changed his mind after a series of enthusiastic tweets, I'm coming to San Antonio, I'm coming back to Texas, I couldn't be more excited, and all that kind of stuff.
It would be embarrassing.
Wouldn't that have changed it? Wouldn't that be different from DeAndre Jordan?
We agree on this, Greeny. We've agreed all morning long. It would be different. It would be more embarrassing, but it doesn't mean it wouldn't happen. And it doesn't mean because you did it, that you then have to go through with it. My thought has always been, oh, my God, I laid out all these tweets, and I really want to go back to Portland. Can I not do it because I laid out these tweets? Absolutely. You can't.
It makes it more difficult, but it doesn't say that, all right, I can't change my mind.
Someone emails in and says, Greeny, your daughter's getting married. She's made the announcement on Facebook. She's gone to the bridal shower. She's done everything, set the date. Night before the wedding, she said, Dad, I don't want to do this. Is your line, well, honey, you announce it on Facebook. You got to go through with it.
Of course not. But it is a whole other level.
Yes,
it is a whole other level of commitment.
We agree on that. It looks bad, but it doesn't mean the mind won't still be changed. And it doesn't mean there's any more obligation because you announced it.
I get it. Again, I would go back to the first thing you said. I think that the hesitancy to do it in the first place is telling. Because it is another level of commitment that you are making.
Sure.
And again, it's not a perfect analogy, but after LeBron James did, quote-unquote, the decision and told Jim Gray he was taking his talents to South Beach, he couldn't change his mind, right? You couldn't just wake up the next day and say, you know what? It sounds like he had a lot of questions there.
It puts so much more pressure on you as an individual to basically stick to your guns, but still, guys have the opportunity to change their mind. They've got that built-in window, so, they can get that done.
All right, we're Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Stink is here with his Subway Fresh Take. Also brought to you by DraftKings. Win huge cash prizes playing fantasy baseball, golf, and more at DraftKings.com, America's favorite daily fantasy sports site. Play free with the code Mike at DraftKings.com. All right, because I promised this, I want to get you guys' perspective. While you were playing a football game, did you ever pay much attention to things that were going on in the stands? I thought this was really interesting. There was a Chicago Blackhawks fan convention. I don't even know exactly when this happened, but Drew Brooks sent this to me. And they were doing a panel discussion, and Patrick Kane and Dennis Savard are up there telling a few stories. And Savard had a few funny stories to tell, including this one. When Patrick Kane was a rookie, he lost his guy on the back check, and that led to giving up a goal. Savard yelled at him that he must have been distracted looking at two pretty blonde girls who were sitting behind the bench. After the game, Kane was late getting to the team bus because he was talking to those same two girls and got yelled at again. The next day, Kane went to Savard's office to give his defense. He said, "Do you know who those two girls were? One of them was Taylor Swift." Savard didn't know who Taylor Swift was and had to ask his wife.
Mike and Mike.
Now, you were just telling us during the break, I'm just fascinated by your life, Stink, I must say. You were just telling us during the break a story of something that happened because you work in your yard so much, an assumption that somebody made. I found this a very funny story.
In my neighborhood, there's been like 4 of our neighbors that have sold their houses, and a lot of that happens as you downsize, your kids, like my wife and I are empty nesters, everybody leaves, so people started downsizing. Well, one of the neighbors across the street, had left, and a new neighbor had moved in, and I'd never met the family. I'd never seen them before. So I'm in my, my landscaping outfit. I'm working the yard, and the guy comes over. He walks across the street, and he says to me, he goes, "Hey, I'm Ryan. I just moved in next door." And I say, "Hey, man, good to meet you. I'm Mark." He said, "Are you the landscaper?" And I tell you what, I literally almost teared up. I was like, as a matter of fact, I am. And he said, so then he was like trying to get a bid to redo his front yard. He's like, "I really want to redo the front yard," and blah. And I was no, I also own this home. I just do my own landscaping, right? I'm not going to give you a bid on your yard. I'll come over and help you.
I was just going to ask, what was your bid? Did you get the job?
I should have stuck him, right?
You should have, huh?
That'd be $150,000.
Yeah. It's a neighborhood.
You want a few rocks? What do you need, right? New lawn? I'm your guy. I thought it was a landscaper. It was great.
That is great.
I'm so uneducated in that area. That might have sounded good to me. I bet, okay, that's what it costs. That's the going rate. It must work. It works for our neighbor. It must work for us. They've got this terrific guy. He played 12 years in the NFL. Now he's their landscaper. Okay, Mark Schlereth is here in our studio. I want to go back to what you were just saying about Peyton Manning. I think this is very interesting. Those 2 Super Bowl years, the years that you won your back-to-back Super Bowls with the Broncos, you averaged 185 yards rushing per game. You ran the ball on 59% of your offensive snaps in those 2 postseasons. But take this a step further. So what you're basically saying is that's what they need to do in order to win in Denver. But I thought that Peyton Manning was checking to the run more frequently, that Peyton wasn't just checking out of run plays into pass plays, that he was checking to the run frequently. So get more specific about what it is Peyton Manning can and can't do at the line of scrimmage.
Here's the problem with the checking to the run, okay? In that particular offense, and I really believe this about Peyton Manning's career, and he's been phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge Peyton Manning fan. And he is as smart, and he's changed the game with his pre-snap reads and what he gets his team into. But just take it from the perspective of the 5 guys in front. Okay, that's almost exactly half of your offense, right? Just shy of half of your offense. You play the game on your heels when you play in that offense. When you sit in your stance and you have to listen to your quarterback decide what play he's going to call from the shotgun based upon the look you get as a defense, you play the game from your heels. You can't just line up and say, when Mike and I lined up against each other and it was 3rd down and 2, I was like, brother, I'm going to try to shorten your neck.
Right.
What are you going to do about it? And the ball's coming right here. And then it was just man on man, right? I mean, it was just let's go and let's see who's the better guy. And there's beauty and there's value in that. See, a lot of times in the NFL right now, because we're so quarterback-centric, like read that, just let me get off topic for 1 second.
Sure.
Read that the tier 1, read the tier 1 definition that came out the other day about the tier 1 quarterbacks. And
Tier 1 quarterbacks can carry their teams week after week and contend for championships without as much help.
Is that the dumbest thing you've ever heard? They can carry them week after week without much help. Really? There's 22 guys that start. 11 on defense, 11 on offense. I have yet to see a quarterback that can carry his team from his back. I mean, so there is inherent value in a 2-yard run. There's inherent value in that we're going to beat the living snot out of you, right? We're going to make safeties get into the box, and we're going to get on them as well. And we're going to lay a 300-pound guy on a 190-pound or a 200-pound safety over and over again. We're going to beat up a linebacker, and eventually, guess what happens? All of a sudden, late in games, especially in playoffs, you know how good a pass rusher you become when you've had to defend the run all day? Not very good. Because now you have to play the game honestly. And we've gotten in this league, that's why Dallas was so good last year. We've gotten in this league where basically everybody just wants to throw the ball. It's become this quarterback-driven league. Well, Dallas is the one team last year. Give me an 8-man box, I give a rip. Give me a 9-man box. We know how to run against that as well. Scott Linehan, the offense coordinator, did a phenomenal job with that. And you see the value, and you see the response that, Tony Romo had in that offense and some other guys, Des Bryant and some of the other guys. So there is inherent value in that. And are you willing as a quarterback to let go a little bit of your compiling of statistics to win the ultimate goal? It's like a great baseball player that's a 4-hitter that refuses to lay down a bunt, even though that's what the situation calls for.
And I agree with the effort of trying to do that, but also there's a huge difference between the Dallas Cowboys offensive line and the Denver Broncos offensive line.
Absolutely.
So when you have success doing it, and instead of Tony Romo throwing 40 times, he's throwing 31 times, so you've you've changed the face of that offense because of that offensive line, because I agree with you. But 4 new guys, all of a sudden, if they can't play smash mouth football, and if you're only gaining 2 yards a run, and you're still on 3rd and long, that changes the game. Now you're talking about a defense when it's 3rd and 5 or plus. You know what I'm doing? I'm not honoring the run. I'm putting my butt up in the air and I'm getting off on a pass run.
But here's the difference there. I agree with you. Dallas Cowboys offensive line, phenomenal. Big, brawling guys, a bunch of first-round, second-round draft choices, all those things. That's not the Denver Broncos, but look at the Baltimore Ravens. Justin Forsett came off the street and was second in the AFC as far as rushing the ball is concerned, with a bunch of guys that we can't name up front. So, that is more about in Kubiak's system. That's more about that zone system. It's more about getting that defense to run. Right. It's not just like, hey, we're coming downhill and we're going to just pile drive you off the ball. It will be a mosh pit, but it'll be a mosh pit with all 5 of us working like trained seals. I always say this about the NFL or about the offensive line in general, and this is one of the things I love. You're a living, breathing organism. 5 guys working together, living, breathing organism from all over the country, right? All over different walks of life and all these things. But as long as all 5 of us are doing the same thing, like we could all be doing the wrong thing, but if all 5 of us are doing it together, even though it's wrong, odds are it's going to be a pretty good play. And that's the beauty of playing offensive line, and that's Gary Kubiak's system, is they'll work together in unison like a bunch of trained seals or dancing bears. You don't have to be the biggest. You don't have to be the baddest. You just have to collectively be great together.
It's a really interesting perspective. And so what you're saying is that Peyton is going to have to acquiesce to that and knows that going in, right? I mean, that's a conversation that isn't going to happen for the first time, the first day of training camp, right?
No,
when Gary Kubiak gets hired, that conversation has to take place.
That's a conversation that happened when they renegotiated his contract.
Right.
And again, we'll have to see. But I will tell you this, having been in, we all have been in check with me offenses. You played against them, in those situations. And they're fine. There's a place, there's a point in time in a game that works out tremendously. But if you're sitting in your stance the whole game, waiting for your quarterback to tell you what's going on, and you don't have a bunch of call it and run it plays, that's miserable. it's miserable because let me tell you something. On the defensive side of the ball, those guys are bigger, faster, stronger, quicker, better athletes. There's no question, right? I mean, for me, it's all technique. I'm fat, I'm lazy, I'm out of shape, but if I have great technique, I can beat you, but I need a coach and I need a system that helps me get an advantage on you because you're a bigger, faster, stronger athlete than I.
Let's also understand, it's not like Peyton Manning is going to be chained either. Peyton Manning is going to have plenty of leeway to do what he needs to do as well.
Sure, it's going to be mutual, right?
It is.
There's got to be a coming together there.
Kubiak didn't sit Peyton down and say, "This is the way we're doing it, son." It's not that far. So let's not go that far. It'll be different, but Peyton Manning is still going to have plenty of leeway to do what Peyton Manning does.
Well, I mean, let's see. I'm not an expert in this, but it seems to me that Peyton Manning has basically called practically every play that his offense has run from the moment, probably the second or third year in the league.
There's degrees, just like we've been talking about with our other topics. There are degrees. We're not going all the way from Peyton calling all the plays to Peyton is locked into that one play no matter what.
Sure.
It'll be somewhere, there'll be a range. He's still good, but it'll be a range from the halfway point to what he was. It'll be in that range.
But is he still getting up there and doing all the gyrations and yelling Omaha?
At times he will.
Sure.
At times
absolutely.
he will.
This is not the end of Omaha.
No, there's still a place for Omaha in this offense.
There is.
All right.
And there's still a place for Omaha in our country, I think.
That's going
a
to be
beautiful city. I love it.
Absolutely is.
Okay, coming up next, it's often imitated, never duplicated. I will make a series of provocative statements about professional football, and these two will tell us whether they are true or false.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Does Trey Wingo know anything about landscaping?
No, Trey Wingo, like, if my yard looked like Trey Wingo's yard, I would have to move. Like, I thought about selling my house. You know the one thing that's keeping me in my house? Because, we're empty nesters as well, and I thought, this house is too big. But you know what's kept me there? My lawn. My lawn is immaculate. I mean, I just can't even imagine moving out of my yard. My yard is beautiful.
And I can't imagine Trey Wingo doing anything to his lawn just like you. I can't imagine either one of you taking a step out there other than to pay the guy that's taking care of your lawn.
I would be willing to offer this. All of these little man skills that you're talking about and you're doing your videos on and everything else, I know I couldn't do any of them. But I bet you I couldn't be any worse at them than Trey Wingo.
Who do you think would do a better job? Here's an irrigation pipe that you cut when you were digging. So your mistake, right?
Right.
You were digging up and you cut your own irrigation.
But I knew I was going to put a new irrigation in anyhow.
Okay, good excuse. So that being said, if it's cut, if it's broken and needs to be replaced, could Greeny, after watching your video, who would you give a better shot of doing it, Greeny or Trey? Or neither? Well, that's too easy.
Yeah,
you have to pick one.
Is death an option?
You have to pick one of them.
I would. You know what? I would give Trey only a slight advantage in that scenario. Just a slight advantage.
Here's the advantage he has on me. He grew up in a house. I grew up in an apartment.
It's true.
When you grew up in an apartment, I grew up in a skyscraper in Manhattan.
You call a super.
Yes, you have a superintendent. When something breaks, someone else's job is to fix it. I mean, that's just that's part of the
You're allowed to
think
fix your own stuff if you want.
But you don't have to. And I was raised to believe you should never do anything you don't have to do. And so I don't.
And I was raised to believe that you should never pay anybody to do something that you can do yourself.
Yeah.
Well, we were raised very differently.
Yes, we were.
In any number of ways. All right, let's do this. All right, it's true or false. It's often imitated. It's never duplicated. I will make a series of provocative statements about pro football, and Golic and Stink will tell us if they are true or false. Golic, true or false, the NFL will leave Tom Brady's suspension where it is at 4 games.
False. I think they'll lower it. I think 2 games. I don't know if it'll go down to 1. There still will be a suspension. But I do think, do we believe the latest that there have been settlement negotiations going on, that there have been owners that are pressuring Goodell to keep the 4-game suspension, and some lawyer people around Roger Goodell are thinking you're going to lose this in court, get rid of the suspension. I think it's true. I do think this is or false. The 4-game suspension will not be upheld.
Stink.
I'm going to say false as well. I think they'll lower that to what degree? I don't know. Will it be 2? Will it be 1? Will it be 3? I don't think it'll be 4, but I think it will get lowered, possibly maybe down to 1. If they can come to some settlement where Brady doesn't take them to court, it'll be interesting. One thing about going to court, though, now understand, he didn't want to give his cell phone. He didn't want to give his information. Boy, all that stuff's going to get subpoenaed, and it's all going to be, public knowledge, I guess. So that's one of those things you have to weigh out. But I think it will get reduced.
Next. Stink, true or false? A year from today, Robert Griffin III will be a starting quarterback in the NFL.
I'm going to say that's true. I don't know that it'll be in Washington. I've never seen a situation publicly where there seems to be more tension between starting quarterback and head coach, and that's never a good thing. One thing you have to have is somebody to believe in you. For you to be good at anything, you have to have had somebody believe in you, somebody instill confidence in you, and it's not the situation that he's in right now, but I do believe he understands the workload ahead of him. I flew on a plane with him several months ago, and we talked for a long time. He understands he's a little bit behind the eight ball, and he needs to put in the work, so he gets it. Can he get it done? I don't know, but he's got to have somebody believe in him more than I believe Jay Gruden does.
Golic, true for another team. I'll keep it short and simple. So
and a starter.
Starter for another team.
He will be a starting quarterback for someone else.
There's more than a few quarterbacks who could be replaced.
Fair enough. Next, Golic, true or false? The Broncos championship window has closed.
I'm going to say true. I think it's between New England and the Colts this year, in my opinion. We'll do our prognostications later on. I think they have a shot for it. I understand all the talk with the O-line this year and how it can change if they can get a running game. I get that with Kubiak's offense. I like their defense. I just think it's moved on. I think last year when it didn't happen, I agree with Greeny on this one that it closed at that point.
Right.
I think just closed. Is it possible? Yes, but if you're going to go true or false here, I'm going to say true. The window is closed.
I'm going to say false simply because I think that every team has at least kind of a drugstore diamond flaw to it. I mean, the New England Patriots lost both their starting cornerbacks. It's going to be hard to replace Darrelle Revis. It's going to hard to replace the guys that they had there. The Indianapolis Colts still, offensive line is a weakness for them. They've got some holes. I think it's closed considerably, but I still think there's a crack in that window.
All right, very quickly, because I like this one. True or false? I, meaning you, would take Andrew Luck over Aaron Rodgers for the next 3 seasons. True or false?
False. I still think Aaron Rodgers is in the prime of his career right now. Absolute freak show when it comes to talent. Understands. I mean, not that Andrew Luck isn't, but Aaron Rodgers in my mind is flat out the best.
False. Luck turns 26 in September. Rodgers turns 32 in December. For the next 3 years, Aaron Rodgers.
And there is one more, and I will start it with Sting because it's only relevant to him. True or false? You're a better actor than you were a football player. You were in Red Dawn, you were in Guiding Light, and you had an appearance in Ballers. True or false? You're a better actor than a football player.
That's true. I'm an incredible actor. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about writing this book. I'm good at everything. And, I'm just kind of messing with it right now, but it may come out soon.
Very nice. I was about to say manscaping tips. Maybe you have that. I meant landscaping tips.
Wait a minute.
Come on. What are you doing?
It's a little closer to home.
Yeah, that's the difference between you and I right there. I landscape, you manscape.
Mike and Mike.
We are Mike and Mike, and it is our pleasure, as we get to do every now and again, to bring in one of the most entertaining people in the world of sports and beyond, TNT NBA analyst, but that certainly doesn't tell the whole story.
No.
For our friend Charles Barkley, who's with us on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Good morning, Charles.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
I think it's safe to assume that you watched Sharknado 3 last night.
It's safe to assume I did not watch it.
You did not?
I did not.
Was that because it's another thing we're talking about? You were maybe out mowing your lawn. Mark Schlereth was on with us and talks about how he loves landscaping at his own house, and I talked about how I'll do hands-on things at my house. Greeny obviously won't. Are you that guy? Will you fix things around the house? Will you mow the lawn? Will you do all that stuff?
Not since I became rich, I won't. No. There's a threshold on how much money you make when you stop doing stuff around the house.
I couldn't have done it to begin with, but I absolutely appreciate the sentiment. Before we get to any other sports stuff, Charles, I got to tell you, I was thrilled watching your new golf swing, because for many years, watching you swing a golf club, and you had a great sense of humor about it, was at times a somewhat painful thing to do, and you seem to have completely redone the swing, and it looks a lot better. Give us your own evaluation of your golf game right now.
Well, I'm awful. I love to play. I'm really awful. But, there's nothing like being out there. Greeny, it's one of the few things you can do in life where you get peace and quiet. I play golf and fish because those are the only 2 things where I get peace and quiet. Because when you go to the dry cleaner, people want to talk to you. You go to the supermarket, people want to talk to you. But when you golf and fish, you just get peace and quiet with your friends.
But how much have you worked on the game, and how much better in your own evaluation have you gotten from where you were back when you were doing the Haney project and you had like a hitch in the swing. It sort of went and it stopped and it kept on going.
Well, I started out at 0, and I'm still at 0. I'm not better. I mean, I had a great week last week in Lake Tahoe, but I just can't do it consistently. I hit a couple of good shots. I hit more bad shots than good shots, obviously. Thank God for Kim Alexis. She's the only person I beat last week.
Mike and Charles. Okay, Shaquille O'Neal got everybody talking, your partner in crime there at TNT, on social media, and we spent a lot of the day on it yesterday, about how the all-time Lakers team would beat the all-time Bulls team by 50 points. We actually got a line on this thing, believe it or not. The Westgate in Las Vegas said that the Laker team would be favored by 6.5 points over that Bulls team. What did you make of that whole conversation?
Clearly, there's basketball season over, and neither one of them got no life during the summer, apparently. Listen, it's all hypothetical. They're both great players. And first of all, I think that Laker team would be favored by more than 6 points. And first of all, Shaquille's not going to be on the team.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Wilt Chamberlain and Kareem going to be the centers on that team, aren't they?
Yep, that's exactly it. What was our point as well, and we thought the spread would be a little more than 6.5 as well.
Yeah, yes. I think the spread it'll be a bigger spread. But listen, man, it's the middle of the summer. There's nothing going on. Can't wait for football to start next week. Those two guys are just bored, and there's nothing happening in basketball right now.
Well, there is one thing that brought up a topic on the show in basketball, and that's the Las Vegas Summer League that was won by San Antonio, which was coached by Becky Harmon, the first female, Becky Hammond, I'm sorry, first female assistant coach with San Antonio. She was the head coach of the Summer League. They win, and then it brought up the talk, Charles, and would you realistically expect a female head coach in the NBA sometime in the near future?
I think it's going to happen at some time. It's going to happen. I mean, first of all, they keep count of the Summer League, got championships now?
Yes.
I remember last year that they were making a big deal. The Sacramento Kings won the Summer League, and they were throwing champagne and everything. I just got a kick out of that. Listen, at some point there's going to be a female coach in the NBA, and more power to them. It's kind of like I thought, people had this debate 20-some years ago about Pat Summitt coaching men. I think she would have done a fantastic job coaching men. And I think probably maybe other than Bill Belichick and Greg Popovich, the best coach in the world today is probably Gino Auriemma. And I think he would do great with men. I do. I think he would do fantastic with men. So I don't think gender has a lot to do with it. I do, but I think that, I think Pat Summitt could have coached men, and I think Gino Auriemma could coach men also. But it's just about the players. The thing about the NBA, man, it's just about players. I mean, Becky Hammond got a much better chance of winning with the Spurs than she do the Sacramento Kings.
Mike and Mike, Charles Barkley is with us. One of the more awkward moments we've seen in recent NBA memory took place yesterday, and I'll play it for you. 3 new members of the Lakers, Roy Hibbert, Lou Williams, and Brandon Bass, are being introduced. They have a press conference. I think we'll hear the question on here, but in case we don't, the question is, has Kobe reached out to you guys, and if not, and if so, what did he say? And here's how that went.
Have any of you guys heard from Kobe, and if so, what did he say?
Now, we inserted the cricket sound effect there only because we have automated stations that will go off the air if we just leave silence for 13 seconds. But there was just this long, painful silence, and there are a million memes that have gone out with their faces and all the rest of that. But Mike and I were wondering, look, Kobe has become, despite his greatness, he's become sort of an easy target sometimes, and I think unfairly so. Do you think there's anything unusual about the fact that Kobe Bryant, as you just said, in the middle of the summer, hasn't reached out to these guys?
Do I think it's unusual? No. Kobe is a loner. He's obviously he's one of the 10 greatest basketball players ever. And he's always treated me with respect, but he's a loner. I mean, I don't think he's got a one-track mind as far as basketball goes, and I don't think he's the type of guy. Doesn't make him a bad guy. I don't think he's the guy who's going to reach out to guys like that. He will see them at training camp. But Kobe's been in the NBA a long time, but the one thing I know about him, he's a loner, and obviously it's too late for him to change that opinion now, but the guy's a great, great player, but he's just a loner. So am I shocked by that? Not at all.
Did that happen when you were playing and you went to a new team or a player came to your team? Did you reach out to people? Did they reach out to you? How did it work then?
You know, Mike, that's a great question because I think that I reached out to the stars, not the role players. Like when I got traded to Phoenix, I think I called Kevin Johnson and Dan Marley. I think when I got traded to Houston, I reached out to Akeem Olajuwon. But I think you reach out to the stars, but I didn't call the role players, in fairness, to be honest with you.
That's at this point, that's really all they have in LA now is Kobe and role players. But that actually brings up something that came up here recently, Charles, and I'd love to get your perspective on it. There were these awesome pictures right before the whole emoji race to DeAndre Jordan's house. There were these terrific pictures of LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Paul together on vacation. There was one in particular, the four of them lifting up these wine glasses. And here are four good friends who are off together on vacation enjoying a little time away, which is all well and good. And we talked about it a little bit on the air. I just mentioned how much I liked the picture. And we were inundated with people saying, you know, back in the day, four guys who have to compete against each other and go head-to-head and try and beat each other for the championship and all of that, they would never be off together on vacation. There would never be such close friends and all of that. It is clearly a bit of a change from the mentality that there used to be. Do you have any problem whatsoever with the level of friendship that exists these days between guys who are competitors?
To a certain degree, because I think sports are really just about competition. But I think, because, you know, and first of all, you really want to beat your friends more than anybody else. But I think it's a different generation. All these guys grew up playing AAU. We didn't have AAU when I was growing up. So these guys don't know each other because, you know, AAU, which I hate. I hate AAU. I think it's one of the worst things that ever happened to the world. I hate AAU because it doesn't make you compete enough, in my opinion. You're supposed to compete against the best. You're not supposed to be great friends. But these guys grew up in a different generation. And listen, they're going to be friends. I have no problem with them taking vacations together. Do I wish they were more competitive? Of course I wish they were more competitive. You want the best players not to like each other. That's what a rivalry is. But listen, they're going to be friends, and at this stage, there's nothing you can do about it.
But take us back to the summer or June of 1993. You and Jordan were good friends, I thought you were good friends, and you're playing each other in the finals. What was that like?
Well, we didn't see each other during the finals. I think we were smart enough to know that we could not hang out during the finals. Because, you know, there was all type of rumors always made me laugh. They said, well, Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley playing golf every day during the finals, and he's trying to get in Charles's head. And me and Michael would get together later and like, what did you shoot that day? I'm like, dude, we didn't play golf. That's just rumors and innuendo. And they're talking about, remember, you going back to, they said he hung out with Patrick Ewing, to soften him up, which was stupid. You know, Michael was just better players than all of us. He didn't have to soften us up, but we did not hang out when we were playing in a series. Did we get together and play a little golf during the summer? Of course we did. But I don't think you hang out with your competition if you're playing in a 7-game series. I don't think you do that at all.
And then finally, Charles, and this was my favorite story of the day, we have two things that seem to fit together very nicely. LeBron James has made a deal. He's partnered up with Warner Brothers to create content. And in the last month, Warner Brothers has filed new trademarks for Space Jam, which leads all of us to believe there is going to be a Space Jam 2. As a veteran of the classic Space Jam 1, what are your thoughts, and are you ready to sign on?
Well, number one, I appreciate LeBron joining the family because, you know, I started my own television production company in the last year, and I got some shows coming out, and he's part of the family now, so that's going to help everybody. You know, I appreciate him venturing out because I tell all these guys, until you start owning content. So I started my own television production company about a year ago, and we started producing content right now. So welcome to the family, LeBron. And I think LeBron would be great as Michael Jordan. He's the greatest player in the world today. You got Anthony Davis, you got Steph Curry. Hopefully Kevin Durant come back. I think Space Jam 2 would be great with those young guys.
That would be. I think it would be fantastic. And I would just like to throw out there that Greeny and I are available
cameos
for your content.
Absolutely.
Well, why don't y'all come up with some shows? That'll be the best way. Y'all could own some shows with me. I mean, because, you know, you can't always just work for people. Why don't you guys come up with some scripted shows? I'm even would consider producing movies, and this is not on camera now. I'm only executive producing shows. So you guys, y'all smart enough, come up with some TV shows, and I'll produce it. How about that?
Much like Greeny thinks about landscaping, it just sounds like too much work.
No. Listen. Now you're singing my song here, Charles.
Hey, all you gotta do is come up with shows. I'll produce them. You guys be executive producers, and we just sit back and make money.
Okay.
That's easy to do.
Sitting back and making money is one thing I know that Golic can do for sure. Charles, it's always a pleasure. Enjoy the summer. Thanks for a few minutes. We'll see you soon.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me. Keep up the great work.
That's Charles Barkley with us, soon to be our producing partner.
How about that? I
think it sounds terrific. We'll do a show where you do home improvement and I do wardrobe improvement. Look, there has been a scripted show, and you and me going all the way back to the days that Michael Davies wanted to do a show where we were like the old Laurel and Hardy, where we were going to travel the country with you in a motorcycle and me in the sidecar, and just the hijinks that would follow. Charles Barkley can produce that.
I think, and I'll steal this from Stink, but I just think the name of our show, we're standing there, and underneath it says Landscape Manscape, and there we go.
This has been the Best of Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio Pod Center. To hear more from Mike and Mike, log on to ESPNRadio.com and become an ESPN Radio Insider.
The Best of Mike and Mike.